For more on next week's big catalyst, let's bring in Vital Knowledge founder Adam Crisafulli. Adam, this morning you talked about who won this week, bulls versus bears, but next week we have quite a list of catalysts here. So how do you think this sets us up for next week?
Yeah, I think, next Wednesday and Thursday in particular are going to be just blockbusters as far as catalysts, where you have, the major tech companies all reporting, you have a critical Fed meeting, and then you have this big Trump-Xi summit in South Korea. So, those three events will really dictate how markets trade over the rest of the year. There's a lot of expectations are very elevated on all three fronts. I think investors are anticipating bullish tech results. We're looking for not only a rate cut from the Fed, but very likely them turning off the quantitative tightening process as well. And then, Trump-Xi is a little bit more of a wild card. I think at the least investors assume status quo, where we kind of continue this detente, no fresh tariffs, they continue to talk, et cetera. An upside scenario would be some type of an incremental deal where you see maybe tariffs reduced, China buys soybeans and Boeing planes, et cetera. But that's the big wild card, I think, is the Trump-Xi summit.
Yeah, it does certainly seem like a wild card. Do you think investors are a little too optimistic that we get to some sort of, I'm not even going to call it a trade deal, I'm going to call it a truce?
Yeah, I definitely think the risk reward into that summit is not particularly positive. If it's a detente, if it's status quo, I think that's widely anticipated. I don't think that really gives you a lot of upside from here. If you were to see a deterioration in the relationship and you do see tariffs get imposed, then the downside is going to be much larger. So it's really going to take that kind of real trade deal, which does not seem likely at this point, where tariffs are reduced and you kind of get purchasing agreements, et cetera. So the risk reward into that summit is not particularly positive, no.
Adam, it seems to me, but what do I know, like the Mag 7 results from big tech and expectations of spending on AI, whatever wonderful things they say are coming, are probably going to prop up the market more than anything on the geopolitical front, absent something catastrophic. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think AI is the single most powerful force in this entire market. It's really driving, it's not just an issue of driving tech spending. It's driving so much more. It's bleeding into a lot of industrial companies. It's bleeding into the entire economy. It really is very powerful. And we know these companies are still spending mountains and mountains of money. We saw that in some of the suppliers this week, like Vertiz or Amphenol, which posted very robust results. I think the bigger issue and the bigger debate is the economics of all this spending. What's the return going to be on the spending over the coming years? And then the durability of the commitments, like the bookings numbers from a lot of these tech startups. Are those really going to kind of come to be over the coming years? Can those companies make good on their promises? And that's the real debate, and it's hard to tell at this time.